And we're back with another episode of ALANUI MELE, Hawaiʻi Hip-Hop History on PBS Hawaii. I'm your host, Kavit the Catalyst, and I'm honored to introduce you guys. If you didn't already know, the older heads probably know, but maybe the newer, younger people in Hawaiʻi hip-hop, Hawaii music might not know this man, but a very integral part in Hawaii's music, radio, and culture. I'd like to introduce you guys to Sheriff Norm Winter. What's up, Norm? How you doing?
I'm fine.
Thanks for coming to PBS.
Thank you.
So let's just, I don't really go. Let's just take it back all the way because I figure this podcast is going to hit a lot of people that might not know who you are, right? I mean, unless you were there in the 80s and 90s, 2000s for Jellies, Radio Free Music, Radio Free 102.7, and then now Ideas. Like, who is Norm Winter?
Well, my wife started Jellies,
Okay.
and it was inside of a furniture and light store in the back with no entrance except going through the light store.
What?
And
Wow.
it was 800 square feet. And she was, her love was comics.
Oh, comics.
And so she started that store, and I thought she was crazy.
What year was this?
1983.
And it was mainly, so she started it as a comic book store initially.
Initially as comics, and she had books in there too.
Okay.
And she had a tiny bit of records,
Right.
but they were horrible records.
What made them horrible? Like what?
They were going to sell.
I did it instead. I weren't making money.
So I finally succumbed and went down there
Right.
and started the record department.
Oh, okay. And that was still in the furniture store
Yeah,
in the back.
800 square feet.
800 square feet. And it was called Jellies back then.
It was Jellies from the beginning.
And then what made her name the business Jellies?
Well, I think why she named
Yeah,
it
why did she
Jellies?
name it Jellies? Yeah.
Because her niece called her Jelly Belly. She was heavy set.
Okay.
And it got originated down to Jellies.
Nice. So it was Jellies Comics
It was Jellies Comics and Books
and books. And then when you came in, comics, books,
and records.
and records.
In those days, vinyl records were pretty much everything. Cassettes were somewhat,
Right.
but there was no CDs, thank God.
So it was 45, was it? No, 78, 78, 45s, then 33.
Well, it was
30.
45s. 78s were way young.
Okay.
Even before I was born.
Right.
Which is hard to believe anything was before that.
Nice.
But anyway, so she started it, and I decided I wanted to advertise the store because, how am I going to get anybody in there?
Right.
So I went to I think it was KHJ. I forget the name of the station, and I asked him if I could run a commercial. So I cut a commercial, and they said, "You can't run this." They said, "You can't run this. We'll have to get a professional to do it." I just walked away. I said, "No." Well, they fired the general manager
Right.
2 months later, and the sales person came down and said, "You sure you want to do it?" Yeah, I want to do it.
Right.
So I go in there, and my wife said that I sounded queer because I was so nervous. My voice was so high. And I ran a commercial, and one of the lines was that I have no morals. I'll buy everything you got.
Nice.
And our business boomed day one.
Wow, just
On
from that line.
12 commercials. I mean, it was a whole commercial, but I
Right.
mean, that was the killer line.
How much was the commercial back then?
I can't
radio.
remember, $30 maybe.
Oh, nice. So you
$360 for 12 commercials.
right.
And the morning DJ was always making fun of my commercial, but that helped it. Actually.
But that's good, right? Because any press is good press. Technically, it keeps talking about the shop.
So anyway, that made Jellies boom in records.
Do you know of any other record shops back then?
There was like 14 or 15. Yeah.
Well, that's right, because records, my bad, because records was huge. So everywhere had records.
Carl's, there was, I think Vinyl Donut was gone then. Let's see.
I heard about that Vinyl Donut. Yeah.
I worked there too.
You worked there too?
Yeah. In fact, I came from the mainland
Right.
to open their shop.
Vinyl Donut.
Yeah.
Wow. So you were born and raised in the mainland.
Yeah.
And what made you come to Hawaii?
Girl.
Oh, girl. That's a good reason.
Yeah. So,
What better reason?
well, it was a hell of a lot better reason was being here.
Right, being in Hawaii.
Hawaii is
And what were you doing back then? Were you involved in music back in
Yeah,
California?
I was in wholesale. I was selling 8-tracks in those days
Oh, nice.
to the nation, and through, and you know,
How long did 8-tracks last? What was the run of the 8-tracks? It was like a decade or
started in
less?
1963 with 4 tracks with months, and then it moved to 8 tracks the next year, and it was booming through 80.
Oh, that's a while. So wait, there was such thing as a 4-track,
Yeah,
then
the-
8-track.
Yeah, first was the month's 4-track. They
Did not
started.
know that. Okay. I always thought 8-tracks because my dad had an 8-track in his VW bus.
Yeah.
I remember. That was my
Months
first
was the one
experience.
that started at the 4-track, and then
Oh,
it eventually
okay.
became the fantastic thing about it. You had it in your car.
Right.
The sound acoustics were phenomenal.
Yeah.
So you could blast it, and you were in heaven.
It's almost like a video game. It was when I was young. It's like almost like a video game console in my dad's VW van because it's like you put it in there, click it in, push it in hard, and then it's like wow, music. So what year did you see the transition from? Was it 8-tracks to vinyl? Or was it
Well,
cassette?
vinyl was always
Vinyl
there.
was always there. Okay, but this is for
Vinyl
your
was-
car,
Vinyl was 2/3 of the market. 8
Okay.
tracks was the other third.
right? My bad.
And then gradually it became cassettes
Right.
and vinyl.
Okay, so cassettes took over the place for 8-tracks, technically, right?
right.
And vinyl just kept on selling.
Yeah. Until the record companies in 1988 decided to get rid of it.
Oh, they got to get rid of vinyl for CDs,
They wanted to make CDs.
right?
And so they got rid of the vinyl, and they said that the CDs will last forever, and
Right.
it's the greatest phenomenal thing ever made.
Yeah.
And
Did you see a drop in sales of records at that time in the in
there was
88?
they weren't making records
Oh, they
in
weren't
'88.
Oh.
The major labels weren't. The only ones that were
Okay.
were the indies,
Oh,
and that's where the
okay.
old school stuff comes in. You know, all those 12 inches.
Yes.
And 12-inch sound better on 45 than probably anything else since 78. So that was a huge. You know, we could bring in 500 of a title and it'd be gone a week or two at Jellies. Yeah.
Wow. So the record industry was trying to push digital CDs,
Yeah.
compact discs.
I guess it was cheaper to make, or I don't
Right.
know what the reason they were. And they were so desperate, they actually destroyed their studios. They didn't want anybody to press records. So the major labels destroyed their studios.
I didn't know that. Okay, so were there any record pressing plants in Hawaii at that time?
Never.
Do you remember?
There's never been.
Oh, there's never been.
No.
Oh, I always thought they, I mean, just from what I know, in Jamaica, there was like plants all over, record plants all over the place. Hawaii, it's weird that Hawaii never adapted having their own record pressing, like 45s or, you know what I mean?
It was sad, but that's true.
Okay, so then the main record labels, the huge record labels, they stopped pressing records to push out more CDs, but a lot of independent companies started pushing the singles,
The vinyl,
vinyl,
12 inches.
12 inches, and those you'd bring in and would sell.
Yeah. We used to have a floor, like in boxes, 100 here, 200 there, 300 there, 100 there, and they fly out of there.
Wow.
The old school music just flew out
Right.
back in the late 80s.
So did you see? So late '80s, when hip hop started, it was the birth of pretty much hip hop. Did you
Yeah,
see
well,
a lot of?
some of the hip hop too.
Right. So you see a lot of hip hop vinyl move, the 12 inches and 45s, the same as the I guess
Hip hop at our store, I don't think it was significantly big. but
Right.
It was. Well, of course, you got NWA. That was huge.
Yeah.
You couldn't get anything bigger than that.
So vinyl. So even though the industry tried to push vinyl out, it still it didn't die. It got
No,
maybe
Two Live
stronger.
Crew, which was the
Right.
biggest selling record of that era,
Yeah.
that was mostly sold on vinyl and cassette, but mostly vinyl.
Wow, that's crazy. And then do you play any instruments or pressed any vinyl on your own record label or produced anything of your own?
I have a triple album coming out.
A triple album.
Yeah. It's
Oh, speak on that album
Kind of a
then.
musical.
Okay.
Kind of like a musical.
Who's involved in that triple album?
I got Jerome James. I got Ryan Murakami, the guy that wrote probably the best songwriter on the island.
Right.
He writes all the music for Ookla and Father's Song.
Yeah.
And a lot of other people.
Right.
And I just got all these guys to help me. And in Kali Navalis,
Yeah.
who is the lead singer,
Nice.
is it was magic. I just tell
How
you.
did you? What was the inkling that made you be like, I want to put out a 3-album music?
I was writing a novel,
Okay.
and it demanded music, so I bought a piano during the pandemic, and I got the chord book and learned the chords,
So you learned the piano in the
And-
pandemic.
and then I wrote 22 songs that are in this album.
What?
I'm a songwriter. I'm not really a musician.
Right. You're a writer. Because you wrote a few books too.
Yeah,
Right.
my new book is probably going to be significant, but we'll never know if I don't get a publisher.
Right.
So far, I haven't.
So when is so that three? You said 3 album, and it's called
Asymmetrical
Asymmetrical. What is it? What does that mean?
means asymmetrical squared, the pulse of creation.
Wow.
The story is the story of creation
Right.
through the Hawaiian eyes.
And Kali is the main
He-
vocalist.
He is the
Is
vocal-
the
Oh, and his daughter's on it too.
Nice.
Not now she's 12, but at the
Right.
time she was 9.
Okay. And when is that going to come out?
This year, the CD will probably be out in a couple of months, but
Okay.
vinyl I have to wait a long time.
And that's going to be a 3-piece vinyl,
3 triple vinyl,
triple vinyl.
double CD. Yeah,
Wow.
93 minutes of music.
93 minutes, all produced by Ryan, or
By me.
you, and Ryan helped compose.
But Ryan is the one that
Yeah.
helped with mixing and also
Oh, it's gonna be
instrumentation.
deep then.
Yeah,
Well,
I
that's-
got all these tremendous. Chris Cease, which is
Yeah.
a genius.
Right.
He sat down on the last walk song and just did a riff, first take, that was just unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Jerome James is a great. His whole family is great drummers. So he had a really
And he was the
all-star
drummer
cast.
on the set, and also he's the one that held it together with all the emotional
Right.
musicians.
So you had Jellies, radio-free music, and ideas. So at one point, did you ever want to start a record label to help Hawaii music, like put out releases?
This thing about me doing music is all new.
Okay.
This happened to me when I was 80. I didn't even think of it
Right.
until I was 80.
So this whole time when you had Jellies and Radio Free, you never thought about starting a record label.
Never started even writing songs.
Wow.
Just was.
And nobody's ever approached you like, hey, Norm, why don't you do a Jellies record label and put out, Hawaii hip-hop, punk, ska,
I don't remember
hip-hop?
that. Don't remember everybody
Wow, that's
asking.
interesting. I always thought,
I would have done it if they
Right.
asked. Even I was that kind of guy,
yeah.
but nobody asked.
Right. So Jellies. So in the time you opened Jellies, like I remember going to Jellies. You had how many different locations? Do you know off the top of your head how many locations, how many shops at one point?
The most was 3 when we had the Mililani
Yes.
and the Pearl Kai
Right.
and the Peakoi, 404 Peak.
And was vinyl was moving big back then, or was it more CDs?
There was no CDs.
So there's no CDs when you opened those shops.
No, CDs came in 1988. We had been open since '83.
Right.
So. And CDs sold, but nothing like the vinyl in the beginning until they shut off the vinyl completely.
Right.
And then they had to buy cassettes mostly.
Do you remember some of your specifically hip hop record buyers? Was it, I think, Billy? Remember Billy?
Billy Craven?
Yeah.
Well,
Did
he
buy
was more industrial
industrial.
than
Who bought who bought the hip hops? Because I remember going there as a kid and like being like amazed at the selection of the hip hop that you guys brought in. Do you remember?
everybody. I mean, people buy all kinds of music.
Right.
It isn't like what radio dreams of. They only want to hear this one sound.
Yeah.
So
You were good at really taking the pulse of the consumer. Like if I came in or someone came in and be like, "Do you have so and so?" You would actually go and get it,
yeah.
which is rare,
Yeah, of course.
right?
Be retarded not to.
So where did that come from? Like the way you operated Jellies, Radio Free, ideas of really being about the people. Was that through your upbringing, or was that something that you always just had in you to involve?
I never
everybody?
even looked at it like that.
Right,
You look at it like that, and I'll say, I just let things happen.
right.
I really do. I remember Daniel J. You remember
Okay, yeah,
him?
yeah.
He came to me when I was at Jellies. He says, I need a sponsor for my midnight show. And I says, okay, how much? And he says, $100. I go, okay. So I gave him $100 for 2 shows, and this 8-year-old comes into the store and says, "Oh, I listened to that thing. It was unbelievable." And so I gave him $100 every week.
Wow.
And it changed a lot of people's lives.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would be there every weekend. My first experience with Jellies was when you were on Pequoy, that shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That was
then-
the get-together where all the teens really found themselves at home. And we had comics, we had
Yeah.
baseball cards in those days, we had books, we had music, all kinds of music, and we'd like a general store for
Right.
art.
Then the Keomoku one, the one kind of inset on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
inside. Yeah, that one was really good too. Did you have anything to do with Funk Pistol? Was that any of your employees that was upstairs? Do you remember that hip hop shop, Funk Pistol?
Oh yeah, that guy was the one who ran that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, he just he had his shop inside my store too.
Okay.
And so they could buy this, avant-garde stuff.
Yeah.
And
Eventually, he just moved out and opened.
and
up
he was a great
upstairs.
help to me in the radio station because
Right.
he got 9 computers
Okay.
and got people to work them free
Right.
to tabulate the ballots every week.
Oh,
So
nice.
he was a big factor in helping me.
Do you remember? Did DMFD ever work for you? Remember Darren Gilmore?
No.
Do you remember him? I'm trying to just name names that I always that was associated so speedy. So when did Jellies kind of dissolve or close?
Okay. The radio station was financially not making it,
Right.
and the comic and the baseball card markets just crashed.
Yeah.
And we owed, I think, $1 million or so to the comic supplier, and everything was going
Right.
wrong. I get up in the morning, call the bank at 7 in the morning, and tell them which checks to clear and which not.
Right.
That kind of toughness.
Yeah.
But I couldn't shut it down because it was live. It was
Yeah,
living. Radio Free was living.
Yeah.
So I couldn't shut it down. And
So real quick, this is Jellies is going and Radio Free Music is going, or Radio
yeah,
Free,
the
radio show, the radio,
Radio Free Hawaii
Hawaii and Jellies.
couldn't make it.
Right.
And we got lucky sometimes. We got won a few suits, but
Right.
we couldn't make it
Right.
on the long run.
Right.
And the store would cost us
Right.
because we had to take some of the money out of that. But we had more problems. We had to move our location into that Keimoku, which
Right.
was much more expensive. Was from $9,000 to $60,000,
Yeah.
and it was like everything was hitting on from all levels
Right.
at the same time. And so I owed $10 million, and so I talked to a supplier in the mainland to take over the business and pay the bills.
Right.
And he was ecstatic. He just wanted to do it so badly. It's
Right.
unbelievable. So that's how I got out of the business,
Of Jellies.
to save the creditors
Right.
as much as I could. There was some that got screwed anyway.
Yeah.
Most of them got their money back through this process.
Wow.
And so that's how it happened.
So basically, you sold Jellies, or
Yeah, well, I sold it, so to speak.
Be-
I sold it not to
Yeah,
get any money.
money, right? You're trying
but
to get out.
to get the creditors paid.
Right. And at the same time, Radio Free Music was still going on.
Yeah, they kind of closed pretty close to each other.
Oh, close to each other. Okay. And Radio Free Music closed because of the situation with the radio sponsorship, or just money.
Telecommunication Act in 1996
Okay.
allowed radio stations to have 8 stations in the market. Before they could only have 3.
Okay.
So first thing they did is they all wanted to buy out Radio Free, shut it down, and the owner went for it
Why did they want to shut it down for?
because they considered it competition.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't a competition because the rating service wouldn't rate us.
Right. Because a lot of stuff you played wouldn't be charted in general
Oh,
on
no.
mainstream.
It was whatever they wanted to hear,
Billboard, right?
right?
Yeah.
I could give a hoot owl about the chart.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's rewind all the way back to radio free music. What I know you have
Well, when Lily,
right.
which is my wife's best friend,
Okay.
when we lost Jellies,
Right.
she started Radio Free Music Center.
Okay.
I couldn't use the name Jellies,
Right.
but we finally won the suit, and we could use the name Jellies.
Oh, okay, okay.
But at the time, I couldn't.
Right. So that's why you guys started Radio Free Music Center.
Yeah, Radio Free Music Center. And that's when the indie rap got huge.
Yeah, I
Just
remember.
monstrous.
I remember going to shows. I think Visionaries was there. Yeah, DJs there. Yeah, and that was
and then
on
later on Atmosphere, which was just huge.
Huge. That was on Kapilani, right? At the corner of Kapilani and Pikoi.
No, right.
Yeah. So Radio Free Music Center came after Radio Free Music, or is that the same time?
Radio Free Hawaii, you mean?
Yeah, Radio Free Hawaii. My bad.
Yeah, Radio Free Hawaii started in 1991.
Right, and lasted till
1997.
97. So that was a good 6-year run. What made you start your own? What made you want to start your own radio station? Radio Free.
It wasn't even my idea.
Wasn't your idea? Whose idea was it?
I forget their last name, Tom and Mike.
Okay.
And they were working at my store.
Right.
And I knew something was wrong because everything that was selling at the store wasn't on the radio.
Right.
I mean, huge things. Alpha Blondie, for example.
Right.
You won't believe this. Bob Marley was not on the radio, and yet he was the biggest seller of records in Hawaii by a landslide.
So Bob Marley wasn't being played locally, but it was the biggest mover of records.
By a landslide.
By a landslide.
Every record was like the #1 record of the year.
Right.
That he did. And so with that, I agreed with him. We should start a station, and we should have the listeners program the music through a ballot system. What are the 10 songs I want to hear on the radio the most? What are the 3 songs I want radio to stop playing the most?
That's right.
And
Stop playing.
And is there a song I think would become a hit if radio played it?
Oh, nice.
And if every week we pick 5 song discoveries, air them on the air, and have the people vote on which one is going to be the song discovery of the week. And that song discovery, we play every 2 hours that coming week.
Right.
And there were some huge hits out of that.
Do you remember any of the hits that you remember off the top of your head?
Rage Against the Machine, Wake Up, Wake Up.
Yeah.
Here's a great one. Baca Bell Cannon in D. 7 weeks, #1.
I think I remember that.
Classical song.
Right.
That was 7 weeks, #1. Was first song discovery by Reed Oda. And amazing. And then there was Waiting for My Ruka.
Okay, yeah.
Sublime.
Sublime, yeah.
This is a great story. Sublime is on vacation in Maui. And they hear the first notes of Waiting for My Ruka, and Bradley says, who's stealing our song? Oh, my God, they're playing it. Nobody had ever played their music on the radio, ever. And then the announcement after was the most wanted to be heard song in Hawaii this week, Waiting for My Ruka by Sublime. So that brought Sublime down to the station. And boy, was that a trip.
So was Radio Free Music like the reason why it was the first to give Sublime like their...
No, not Radio Free Music. I'm talking...
Radio Free Hawaii.
Radio Free Hawaii.
Yeah.
First to play so many. Rage Against the Machine, first to play it.
First to play it.
First to play just tons
Sublime,
of things.
everything, yeah.
Real Big Fish.
Right.
I remember this MCA guy was dragged down to Hawaii to listen to Real Big Fish in some little nook in off a hotel street, and he this won't work. This can't work. I said, trust me, you're going to sign them. They signed Sublime because of me. They signed Real Big Fish probably because of me.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And anyway, so
in turn, you were selling the records you were playing on the air.
Of
was
course.
moving, was just moving.
Well, we were selling the records before they were on the air.
Right. Did you have any experience with radio before? Radio Free Hawaii?
No, I did not.
So how did you end? How did you even get the frequency? Because I was on K2H for 5 years, and I can only imagine trying to start a radio show. I mean, even getting a frequency to even a company, or I don't even know how does it work in your own radio station back then?
My cohort, Kerry Hayashikawa, who's kind of been with all my big projects,
Right.
started snooping around and found out there's a station that's really hurting, and that was 102.7, which was a country station.
Country, yes, yeah.
So I went down there and told him we gave you $36,000 a month and lease your station, and he had no choice. He was ready to go out.
Right.
He took it.
And you told him, I'm going to be playing what the people want to hear. You told him that.
I didn't tell him anything.
Oh, you told him anything.
But he made me take over the country station too,
Okay.
which was kind of hard to do. 'Cause
Yeah.
They're very stubborn, those people.
But look at now, country's huge.
Country's not huge. Trust me on that.
Okay, yeah, I'm not a country guy. But anyway, so you took over 102.7, and it was in Waipahu. The station was in Waipahu. How was it having a radio station in Waipahu? Like the neighborhood? Did anything go down at that time, or?
Waipahu's like Los Angeles. It's
Right.
uglier than shit. I can tell you. I mean, it's people are cool, but as far as the surroundings, it's kind of dry.
Right. And then so that was when radio was so 102.7 was an independently owned radio frequency.
Yeah.
So that's why he was able to say, okay, take it over. Yeah. And then you just named it exactly what you're doing then. Radio Free Music.
Radio Free Hawaii, yeah.
Radio Free Hawaii. And do you remember your first? How did you end up getting the hosts for the radio show? Radio, all the different shows. And do you remember
Don
the first?
Fujiyama came later. I'm trying. Muhammad.
Right.
What happened was and Dave O'Day.
Right.
I went to the night before we started the radio station. I went up to K2H and did a skit. It was a monkey skit. That the station is owned by a bunch of monkeys.
Right.
And the monkeys don't like bosses, and monkeys don't like hear the same song over and over and over.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then, so the monkeys became part of the station.
Right. Yeah.
You remember Monkey Time?
I do.
The Monkey Train?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. I remember monkeys really being quite an integral part of Radio Free.
So they owned the station. Nobody else owned the station.
Right.
And they called the shots. And through the skit I did the night before. And at the skit was Muhammad,
Okay.
Dave O'Day, and a lot of K2H guys. I forget the other one, Tom Brower.
Yep.
And so I said, "You want to come work for me?" And they all came.
Wow.
And then K2H got furious.
Oh, they did. Oh, interesting.
In fact, they blackballed me for years. But anyway,
And yeah, how much did you pay a radio DJ back then?
I can't remember. Probably $1,000
to do for a month?
I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that ballpark.
Did you ever think that the people that you had, Dave O'Day, Muhammad, were ever going to become like technically local celebrities?
Daniel J.
All those guys became like integral part in Hawaii's music scene.
Muhammad, oh my God, yeah.
I used to call your station and impersonate him to make him mad. That's because I was like, oh, his accent. What was the name of the segment on Radio Free with the we used to hammer? Was it hammer? Or used to slam the?
Oh yeah,
What was it called again?
Sledgehammer.
Yeah.
I had a sledgehammer,
Right.
a real sledgehammer. And the first week, Vanilla Ice was the least wanted to be heard song. in Hawaii.
Right. Yeah.
They actually had a net negative of 1,094 votes out of 8,000 ballots.
Right.
And so I got my sledgehammer out and I whammed and whammed and whammed. And plastic flew. Part of it went to the ceiling. We left it in there.
Oh, nice.
For the whole crew. For the whole time. But unfortunately, I broke the floor. And so the next week, Bob Lowe, who owned the station, says, I think you should try to do this on the steps
Right,
outside.
right.
But oddly enough, the next song to be sledgehammered was Step by Step by the New Kids on the Block. So I sledgehammered on the steps, and guess what?
You broke the steps. Wasn't that steps like a porch though?
Well,
Wasn't it like
there
a
were steps
wooden-
on the porch. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
what I mean. Yeah, you know.
Oh, that's classic. Do you
Yeah.
remember what other songs or artists you sledgehammered throughout the years besides Vanilla Ice and
Well, I can't remember everything. You know,
Yeah.
but if it got enough negative votes in a week, or if it was close, I would go to the phones, and I have to get 7 phone callers
Right.
in a row to agree that it gets sledgehammered.
was there a point where you could save the song too?
That's
Do
what I
remember.
mean.
Yeah. Okay.
If
okay.
one of the 7 people called, they wanted to save it,
Yeah.
and then I had to say, well, you better be able to sing it if you want to save
Right.
it.
Right. I remember people calling in and save it just to irritate everybody.
Rubber
else.
Ducky or something. Not Rubber Ducky. What was it? There was a cowboy song that was on the radio that.
So nobody ever tried to copy. I mean, to me, like radio free music was huge for a lot of independent or just music in general. Did anybody ever try to copy that formula nationwide? Was there any interest in buying it or putting syndication?
In
or
Australia,
any kind of
they tried,
okay,
but we made this deal with them and they negated. So I went down to Australia and went to court and won.
wow,
Got some money out of it.
okay. So they tried to like
That's the only one that ever tried.
Yeah.
No one in America would try,
Right.
Because
You're
record
fighting.
companies control radio, whether
Right.
and they control it through the rating service.
So you would think because it was a perfect situation being in Hawaii, away, like literally physically away from the States,
Yeah.
that this could work. And it worked. And it's proven to work. That's the reason. I mean, I don't think it could have worked in LA, could have worked in even in Seattle.
It
Maybe.
could probably work everywhere, but it would be a lot harder.
Right.
But now with the internet,
Right.
maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be done, but they would have to take it from their local listeners, not from
Right.
outsiders.
And I know you guys, through the radio station as well as Radio Free Music, you guys also bought on a lot of acts, hip hop. Public Enemy, Paris, Ice Cube, Ice-T. Were you involved in those kind of bookings or like who?
In the early going, yes.
You decided
in
who-
the later, I got out of it
Right.
because I was financially not prepared to handle a loss. So,
Right. Oh, because a lot of those shows were losing money, actually.
well, Paris lost money, but Ice Cube was not a problem.
Right.
I didn't know there were so many black people in Hawaii. I couldn't believe it.
Right.
But I guess a lot of them were military or something because I'd never seen so many black people.
Right.
Suddenly, it was just 3,000 blacks at one time in Hawaii.
Where was the Ice Cube show at? Was it? Do you remember?
I remember the line, but I can't remember where it was. Probably after dark, but I'm not sure.
Oh, that was Ice Cube when I guess he's solo. Yeah, Ice Cube, Ice-T. Also, you bought on Fushnikins. Do you remember
Oh
Fushnikins?
yeah,
Nice. Well, I don't know how I missed that show. That's one of my favorite groups. Yeah, and Speedy told me Fushnikins like, you guys bought on Fushnikins? I was like, that's interesting.
we bought anything that was on the radio. We
Right.
brought it
House of Pain, Funk Dubious, Diggable Planets.
Sundays. I mean,
Yeah.
things that are pop too.
Yeah.
And not just example Tool.
Right.
Tool had never had a major concert in their life, and our voters voted for him.
Yeah.
And so we asked them to come down to open the Big Mele,
Wow.
and they became huge.
Yeah.
Another group that we were the first ones to play.
Oh, that's crazy. So-
Pretty much all the key acts, we might have been the first in most cases of playing because it's really weird. You let people choose the music, they're way ahead
Right.
of what the record companies want. And there are a lot of them, they all started independent labels.
Right. Did you ever thought maybe that what you were doing was becoming like an incubator for labels looking at it, be like, hey, these bands are playing big in Hawaii, we'll sign them. Was there a trend? Did you start noticing like, hey, everybody we playing eventually?
I never, at the time I just thought we were going to play what we wanted to hear. I didn't think it was a big deal. I really did.
Yeah. So Big Mele, who started Big Mele?
We, along with another company, I can't remember the name of
Was
it.
it not Golden Voice, was it?
Yeah, Golden
Golden
Voice.
Voice, okay.
Yeah.
And what was your partnership with Golden Voice? Because they were
We were
huge.
50-50
Oh, 50-50.
when we did it. First it was just us, and then it was 50-50 them.
Was Golden
And
Voice
then-
local?
No, they did most of the shows in the mainland.
Oh, okay.
Rick was the guy behind it,
Yeah.
and forget his last name.
Who had the concept for Big Mele? The name or just in general?
Mari.
Okay.
She was working for me.
Right.
How she got to work for me was she wanted to have local concerts, rap and reggae.
Yeah.
She especially favored reggae, and hardcore punk. And so we would have them, but nobody would. We couldn't last more than a half an hour before the police came down there and shut us down for sound complaints.
Right.
So we finally, the Club Hubba Hubba had closed, so we talked them into letting us use it because it's an industrial area,
Right,
so
yeah.
when you get sound complaints.
Okay.
And so we did it at the Club Hubba Hubba. We called it No Place to Play.
And
And all the local bands
Okay.
came down and played on the strip stage.
Right.
And
Nice.
and the police were there all day and night just panicking. But we had a 4:00 show and a 5:30 show, and we got the kids out before curfew
Right.
because the young kids were 8 o'clock.
Right.
curfew.
Yeah.
So that was to me a major event,
Yeah. Definitely.
and we had 3,000 kids,
Wow.
1,500 to show, totally breaking the fire law.
Yeah. And this was like the beginning of Big Mele.
So that was before Big Melody. That was 84.
Right. And then
When-
84.
When I was starting working with Mari,
Right.
and we also started the Scrawling Wall,
Okay.
which was you could scrawl on our wall
Right.
at Jellies, and then we put it in the paper, and we had short stories, a lot of weird stories, a lot of negrophia. I mean, the kids were the kids of the 80s were so shut down, it was unbelievable. They couldn't hear the music.
Right.
They could do nothing. So that was, and then when Radio Free came in 91, all the music that was popular in the 80s suddenly
Right.
made it to the airways that had been Smiths, Cure. You believe that? Cure was never on the radio until I don't know if we were the first to do it, but it doesn't make a difference. They couldn't, in their peak, they couldn't be on the radio.
Wow.
Just Like Heaven,
Yeah.
probably the biggest song that we got votes for,
Right.
couldn't be on the radio.
That's crazy.
And so it all surfaced in the 90s because all that suffocated music, all those years suddenly got voted in and made the radio station
Yeah.
bring it to life. And just, people loved it because, hey, this is what I wanted to hear.
Right. Right.
Cocteau
right.
Twins.
Yeah.
By the way, Cocteau Twins today, the young kids are totally stoked on Cocteau Twins.
What? That's crazy.
There's crazy things that are happening.
Right. Right.
But that music that opened up through our listening system, through our radio system, is popular today.
Yeah.
This is what, 30 years later?
Yeah.
It's popular today.
80s is huge.
What does that mean? It means that the record companies were so tight on what they wanted to produce that they were unable to allow people to hear music and share ideas. And like in the 60s, they were able to do that.
Right,
With
right.
the Doors and Pink Floyd and Jimi Hendrix, all that stuff could make it to the airways because in the 60s, the record companies weren't controlling the radio. In the 70s, they controlled radio. The reason they controlled it was we call the reporting stores. Billboard counted sales only.
Right.
And they would call the reporting stores and say, hey, can you give me a number 1 this week? Well, I gave it to Columbia. Well, what can you do? Well, I can give you a number 6 if you give me free goods and this and that and advertising
okay.
dollars. And so suddenly they manipulated the chart. and it wasn't what the populace really wanted to hear. It was
Right,
what
right.
they wanted to push into your eardrums.
Mm,
So that started in the 70s, and it got worse in the 80s.
right.
And by the 90s, it was dead.
Yeah.
Radio was dead because of that.
Is radio dead now?
Of course. How many kids listen to radio? You know, you say it's because there's the internet. No. If Radio Free Hawaii got on the air today,
Right.
guess what? Especially with the internet and all the
Yeah.
voting, easy voting system we have today, we didn't have that
Yeah.
in the beginning
It's
of
ballots. Write-in ballots, right?
Yeah, you had to go to a location right out of the ballot.
Right. Yeah.
You know, we did finally get internet
Right.
near the end, but it was still hadn't really gotten full speed yet.
Right. So you think if Radio Free was
Now,
now,
if we could do it again, guess what? People would suddenly realize radio is number one.
Yeah.
I mean, radio, you're sharing. That's what that voting system was. I'm sharing my votes,
right?
my music with you.
Yeah.
And then you get to hear it all together. And of course, you can hear industrial, followed by classical,
Oh,
followed
yeah.
by heavy metal, followed by punk, followed by whatever. But the overall theme is the popular music of the day being shared with all the ears and everybody knowing everybody else is listening. That was
yeah.
what was the power of radio. And that's why it worked in the 60s and created all these great bands that with creative expression. And then it got shut down in the 70s and muffled in the 80s. I'm ranting. Sorry.
No, it's all good. No, that's great. No, you're good. You're good. Oh, wow. So if Radio Free came back, you think it would make a big difference in radio today?
It would take over radio. It really would. But it's impossible because the rating service isn't going to give you
Right.
ratings.
Yeah.
And you can't get 90% of your advertising comes from from agencies, and the agencies would not spend any money on our station
Right.
at all costs. The beer companies did because they were separate,
Okay.
but it was just taboo.
Right.
Even though they all filled out ballots every week and turned them into the station.
Yeah.
The biggest ad agency did that.
Oh, wow. They know how to hack the system then.
But they were unable because it wasn't in Arbitron.
Oh, okay. So what brought the closing of Radio Free Music? Radio Free Hawaii, excuse me. The radio
Free.
station.
Oh, I told
Yeah.
you the reason. I couldn't get enough money because we were blocked from advertising from
okay.
the agencies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And did you ever try to restart it
but
up again?
it was deeper than that.
Okay.
The Telecommunication Act came in, and other
that's right.
stations could buy you out.
Yeah. So that closed down. Did you try to reopen Jelly? Did you do Jellies again after that was
Yeah.
done?
Well, I got the name back
Right.
after a 5-year lawsuit, and in the name they had to change their name to Cheapos,
Oh, I remember that. Okay.
and Jellies restarted in IAEA
yeah.
behind Cutter Ford.
Right. And then now you have Ideas. Is that like a evolution of Jellies? Ideas?
Yeah,
Music
the same buyers, the comic buyers still with us, the book buyers still with us, and me, the music guy, still with us.
Right.
Yes, it's a smaller operation, but nevertheless, it's
Do you
the
still
same
get-
thing.
Do you
Same thing.
see with the onset of digital? Do you still see artists, independent Hawaii artists, bringing in their CDs or cassettes to sell?
I get kids bringing in their cassettes. I get a guy from Scotland who brought in his punk CDs.
Nice.
Not too much.
Not
though.
too much. It's straight digital.
Back in the day, when Jellies was going,
Right.
Frank Oral,
Okay.
Poi Dog
Yeah.
Pondering,
Right.
and also part of songwriter for Hat Makes a Man.
Oh wow. Okay.
He would come into the store and he'd give me an individual painted cassette of his latest music that
Right.
he had done in his garage, and they sold, and next week I got more and more. I must have sold 500 to 1,000 of those.
Wow.
And he would paint each one individually different. And I wish I could get one of those today.
you don't
I have never seen it.
There's
To me, it's the
500 out there.
most valuable thing in the whole world. and
Right, right.
I haven't seen it since, but
That's cool.
one day maybe I will.
Someone will pop up. See, does he have it?
Frank Orrell's on the mainland.
Oh.
He's still Poi Dog Ponder. He's still a big act. It
Right,
goes
right.
all over the country. He plays everywhere.
What is your what would be your favorite I think it was Jimmy Taco asked me this what is your favorite band or album cover artwork?
I'm not a visual guy.
You're not
I'm
a
sound
visual guy?
alone. I'm sound alone.
Your sound?
I'm sound alone.
So what would you your favorite artist then? Your favorite
Favorite artist? It's impossible to say.
name a
I'll
off
tell
the
you.
top of your head. Five off the top of your head. Spontaneous.
Hearth Martinez. Tom T. Hall, country, by the way.
Okay.
Let's see. Beatles. Atmosphere, maybe.
Oh, nice.
And lately, well, I don't know. Lately, I don't know.
Yeah. Do you have any how are you with Hawaii hip hop? Do you know of any acts off the top of your head that you dig or like you put on or you?
Yeah, I don't listen to too much hip hop myself.
Right. But you always, what's good about it is that you always, maybe hip hop might not have been your thing, but you never said no to me putting music in your shop or any other people like Rise Up or any Humanakers or High State. You've always been open to that kind of thing, regardless if that wasn't your genre. A couple
Actually, rap is #1 right now.
Right. That sells.
In the music store. If you can get it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. I mean, I got one for you. What do you feel is your contribution to Hawaii's music scene and culture?
What do I feel is my contribution?
Yeah, it's a lot. We talked about it, a lot of it. But I mean, if you name one thing that you,
I think the most important is what I'm doing now. I mean, I'm trying to. We stand tall in the face of fall. I live in Hawaii, so I'm really sensitive to the fact that we're a stolen country, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the people that have been stolen have been shut down pretty badly. I got a song about bringing back the Hawaiian lands, and I'm kind of into that. And knowing Kali just amplified it.
Yeah.
Because Kali Navalas, his wife, I think she could be pure Hawaiian.
Right.
She's definitely she knows everything about the Hawaiian history.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And when I wrote about the shark gods, Kali says, "Oh, that's so and so." I forget the name.
Yeah.
He says, so I'm kind of glued to the Hawaiian world,
right,
in my own little white way, and I just feel it.
Yeah, definitely
feel the rage.
Yeah. What are some things you could give a Hawaii artist? Well, this is a Hawaii hip hop history, but Hawaii artist music in general. I'm trying to get their music beyond Hawaii.
To get beyond Hawaii, it's really weird. Every locality has its own sound. In Hawaii, at 22-degree latitude, same as Jamaica, has its own sound. They have that reggae feel. They have trying to get your music out to other parts of the world. It's not important.
Right.
It's really important to get it to the world that you live in. I know Gabby, the Benini brothers tried to get his music out to the mainland. Got Warner Brothers to release a record. Nothing happened. I can't believe this. C&K doesn't sell anywhere else but Hawaii.
Right.
And they sell like fire.
Yeah.
Number one is C&K in Kalapana. And Kalapana sells in Japan, but
Right.
it doesn't sell in the mainland.
Right.
And it's just really weird. But I just think it is. The music you create has to be from the world you're within, not the world you're not trying to get it out to the rest of the world.
Right.
Think of all the African music and all the kids. They buy all kinds of crazy stuff. They buy Hungarian music. They buy Polish classical music. And they're kids.
Right.
But they just want to know about it. I think that's the reason they're buying it.
Right.
And anyway, you just got to stick to your own world. That's my idea.
Solid. Anything else? Anything else you want to say, Norm?
Well, I don't know. What else do I have to say? Well, if you make your own music, bring it to the store.
Yeah.
We won't buy it on consignment.
Right.
We'll buy it.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. And then one more time, what was the name of the album that you're dropping? And
My
when
new
can we look
album
forward to
is
it?
called Asymmetrical,
Asymmetrical.
which means asymmetrical squared, the pulse of creation. It is the story of creation.
Right. And it's three albums.
3 vinyl albums.
And on the players of instruments are
Jerome James on drums, Chris Cease on guitar, me and a few other guys on piano. I don't know the names actually.
is Ryan playing bass too?
Ryan's on there, yeah.
Kali
He
on
plays many
vocals?
instruments.
Right,
on there.
right.
Kali on vocals, and Hannah Marie, and I got a song for her too. Hannah Marie,
Nice.
it's on the album. That's his daughter.
Awesome. Right on, Norm. Well, if that's it, ALANUI MELE, Hawaiʻi Hip-Hop History on PBS Hawaii. I'd like to thank Sheriff Norm Winter.
Thank you.
Peace.